Everybody rise. Commissioner Wall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This morning we have Mr. Dan Morris, the owner of Morris Nursery and Landscaping, which started in 1978 with my understanding is a beat-up pickup truck that he traded his wife's car in on, and 42 years later we have Morris Nursery and Landscaping here in Madison County meeting the nursery and landscaping needs. Mr. Dan Morris.
Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, creator of all things, King of the universe, we lift up these commissioners that have been elected by the people of Madison County to govern your people. We ask you to give them your wisdom and guide their steps. Show them when to say yes and when to say no. Help them to govern themselves and your people rightly. I pray they will accept no bribe or favor from men that will taint their judgment. That they will treat all men equal under the law and be kind to one another and your people. We ask your kingdom come here in Madison County as in heaven. We ask that you forgive us of our sins and our trespasses, and we forgive those who sin or trespass against us. Provide our needs. Deliver us from evil and harm, from evil men, from evil spirits, from diseases, pestilence. Heal those of us who are sick and suffering. Keep us from temptation so we don't sin against you, against each other. Make us new creations in Christ. Fill us with the fruit of the Spirit, the fruits of love and joy and peace, patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness, of self-control. Therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, clothe us with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Help us bear with each other and forgive any complaint we have against each other. Help us to forgive as you forgave us. Help us, Lord, to be like-minded and sympathetic, to love as brothers and sisters, to be tender-hearted and humble with each other. Lord, you are good to all, and your tender mercies are over all your works. Help us to imitate you as your beloved children. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Dan Martin. Today is today is January the 19th. And we're meeting at the Agricultural Extension Center in the auditorium at 309 North Parkway, right here in good old Jackson, Tennessee. Appreciate everyone attending today. Roll call.
Alexander. Present. Arnold.
Here.
Beckman.
Here.
Brantley. Here. Brown Claudel. Here. Brown Scott.
Here.
Bryant. Here. Bush.
Here.
Quick. Here. Compton.
Here.
Beaton.
Here.
Ellison. Here. Goblin. Here. Hill.
Here.
Johnson Arthur. Johnson Barber. Martin.
Here.
Mercer. Montague.
Here.
Petty.
Here.
Spearman.
Here.
Stevenson.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Wall.
Here.
21 present, Mr. Chairman.
21 present, 4 absent, 3 absent. I'll accept the approval of minutes of the previous meeting on December 21st.
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Item number 3, presentation by our county manager.
Chairman, a couple things on this item this morning. First of all, I'd like to introduce y'all to our new Human Resource Director. This is Armita King. Today is her first day of work. This is the first way she She's going to be our HR director. She's been with Eaton over in Newton, Tennessee for several years. She lives in Jackson, has for a long time. Daughter in school. So hope y'all welcome Carmita and let me know her as time goes on. And then Kim is going to give us a report on the Board of Health for the vaccination, and she's got to get out of here real quick, so she's going to go now. Kim?
Just wanted to let everybody know the report on the Board of Health meeting. They met electronically via Zoom on Friday, January the 15th at 1:30. It was broadcast live on our Facebook page. All members were present except one, and that was Dr. Priscilla Siosen, and she was tied up at the hospital. The board received all of the documents that were sent by Mr. Johnson well in advance of the meeting, as well as letters from the Farm Bureau Board, the UT Extension Office, and the Tennessee Soybean Association, asking the Board of Health not to adopt the proposed regulations. They voted unanimously not to adopt the proposed regulations nor any other regulations having to do with the chicken farms in Madison County. They felt like this was an agriculture issue and not a public health issue, and they did not feel like if they regulated this, they would be asked to regulate other agriculture activities, and that's not the view of the board. Do y'all have any questions about that?
Commissioner.
I'd like to, on a point of personal privilege, like to recognize Claude Johnson at this time.
Bob, you come forward.
I have prepared a written response because I did watch it live. And in order for me not to get too emotional, I'd rather read this. This is very dear to my heart on several levels. So please bear with me. Good morning, my name is Claude Johnson, and I'm a lifelong resident of Madison County. And I represent the No Tyson Madison County group, as most of you know. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I want to thank you for allowing me to address you today. I want to personally say thank you to each of you, and especially to Mr. Harold Petty and the Property Committee, for allowing me to address the health concerns and quality of life issues that these mega chicken operations are and will bring to Madison County. I witnessed something that happened that doesn't happen often, and that was a unanimous vote from this body to highly recommend that the Health Board consider these suggested regulations for approval. I hope each of you watched live or have used the recorded Health Board Facebook meeting. If not, I highly recommend you watch it. If you have, I hope you were sickened and disappointed as I was. Regardless of the motive of the Health Board, this was very disrespectful to the residents of Madison County. You approved this committee to help protect the health, safety, and well-being of the residents of Madison County. And it was clearly evident that no concern was given to your request. If you listen to the meeting, you will see that even the words you, the commissioners, used were not even read or shared with the Health Board. I've been told by several people that the fix was in. They didn't even have the decency to let you participate or speak in this meeting. For the record, the Health Board public meeting date was released on January 11, 2021. And on January the 12th, 2011, I sent information including 2 current health regulations that are in force in Missouri for this same issue from Lynn and Cedar counties in Missouri, along with a written request to participate in this Facebook Zoom meeting. In less than 2 hours, I got a prompt response, and I appreciate that, telling me that no one was going to be allowed to speak, and they will decide at this meeting if they want to hear from both sides at a future meeting. I would be very interested in seeing what information was presented by the other side. I hope that it was more than the letters from Farm Bureau and the Soybean Association and the email from Jake Madison. Can I ask you, was there more than that?
No.
The 3 hyperlinks that were in, by the way, I have copies of all of these. These are letters. If you look at the letters, I'm trying not to deviate, y'all bear with me, I'm sorry. The 3 hyperlinks in Mr. Mallard's letter, who is the ag agent here for UT. They cited 3 publications. Look, I'm not asking y'all to take my word for any of this, okay? I'm not trying, but you go to the links. If you look at the links, there's not one regulation. There are recommendations that were dated prior to the law change of 2018. All these recommendations are not regulations. They recommend you put 32 pounds of pressure in your tire, but you decide what you put in your tire. I've asked Mr. Mallard several days ago, when I got a copy of the letter, we talked. And I asked him, I said, show me one regulation that pertains to the operations of chicken barns. I've yet to get a response. I have copies of each and all of these that was presented to the health board. Not one of the letters put forward has one regulation. But they do talk about the economic impact of chickens. In Tennessee. They were presented under the guise that regulations are already in place and they don't need, to quote, reinvent the wheel. The most disheartening issue is the fact that they made a decision not to seek information or allow anyone to speak or to even investigate the potential health impacts that these mega chicken operations could have on this county. It was also mentioned that the health department was not trained to handle this. Well, based on that statement, I would then assume that they were fully trained and staffed for the COVID pandemic. Just because this relates, it was also stated that this was out of their scope. Just because this relates to agriculture does not mean it does not present a health issue. Why do they exist if not to regulate and take action as necessary to protect the residents of Madison County? I thought that members of the health board are in place to help protect us all. They made a rash decision without even trying to understand the issue. As previously stated by our county attorney, the CAFO definition was removed from state law in 2018, and no regulations exist for mega chicken operations. This is not my opinion. This is from the county attorney who got this straight from the Attorney General of the state of Tennessee. Is that not correct?
I'd like to hear what you're about to say.
No. That's they've removed the CAFO designation. That's it. I'm not going to hang you. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not going to say you've said anything. I'm just saying this is what you have told this commission. Is that not correct?
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
our rules allow for 3 minutes, so you know if you.
I like this much.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm passionate. Y'all bear with me, please. It was, one more thing, the only elected official on the health board that are mayor. He's been present at each one of these commission meetings, he has heard the same information that you have heard. Yet, I want to make sure that people in Madison County know that Mayor Harris sold land in Henderson County that was going to be the site for 24 chicken barns. If you listen to even what he said, he didn't even mention anything of the knowledge that he's gained from these meetings at the board. I believe in honor and integrity. I don't have a problem with him selling the land, but at least people should know it. I am not accusing you of anything wrong, except you did not represent this body and you did not represent me. Lobbyists for Tyson, such as Farm Bureau, the Tennessee Soybean Association, and others, have already been able to get the legislation started to remove the ability of the county health board to regulate any health issue in regards to agriculture. There again, this is not me telling you, this is in the Tennessean dated January the 11th of 2021. I've been informed that our representative Chris Todd is also a supporter of this bill. You see, even the ability to govern and establish rules and regulations for the citizens of Madison County are in the process of being limited because of Tyson, Farm Bureau, and the Tennessee Soybean Association. They're more powerful than you, our elected officials. Is there any wonder why people feel disenfranchised and have no faith in government? What has happened to government of the people, by the people, and for the people? It's been replaced with big business is always right. You don't agree, just sit down and shut up. We're going to do it our way anyway. It seems like nobody cares about facts or people anymore. Just about the dollar. Thank you for the extended time.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Johnson, you've been dealing with this from the start.
Yes, sir.
Apparently you talked with a lot of people.
Yes.
Is there anything that you would recommend that this body could do that would be helpful?
I appreciate you asking that, but I made a promise to a farmer, and I'm going to keep my word. I don't have any recommendations. Anything that y'all can do, you're going to have to think out of the box. You're going to have to do. I can't tell you because I give my word, and that means a lot to me.
Any other questions, Mr. Johnson? Yeah, Commissioner Brown.
Number one, I'm empathetic to the whole eastern part of the county, because the concern that I have is that I have not felt, rather than prejudge or with any prejudice, I want you to answer directly to me. What recommendations have come from our delegation? You mentioned Representative Todd, but the thing is that these people said the national, we talked about Washington, they're said to represent us, elected officials, we lobby for citizens. Certified lobbyist groups, they represent their interests. What have been the recommendation? All of this noise from our state delegation.
The only contact that I have had with State Representative Todd is on a phone call that was presented at the property committee meeting when he called in. He couldn't attend the meeting, and he called in and basically told everybody there's nothing that could be done. And the people of the property committee, if I have misquoted that or said it, please correct me. But was that not the gist of what was said? That there's nothing that can be done?
Can I speak on behalf of UT and Tissue Extension? I know you're concerned. Jake and I had talked. I'm the county director in the office, and he's been working on coming up with some research information from the University of Tennessee that we don't want to make a statement off of opinion. We want to make sure it was fact-based. So that's his hold up in responding directly to your email is that reason. And once we do have that, we bring it to you all just for common information. So I just want you to know that Extension is neutral. We don't sway either way. We just provide everybody with facts. So.
Well, I appreciate that, and just so you know, there used to be regulations in TDEC that affected CAFOs, which was removed in 2018. And right now, there is nothing on the books. The only TDEC permit, that was quoted in one of the letters, there's a TDEC permit. It's a TDEC permit for construction. It's called the NPDES permit. If you build a structure that reaches one of these qualifications, you're required to get it. And that applies only during the construction phase of the chicken barn. It has to do with, basically, they call it the silk fence permit. Okay? And the problem is nobody will sit down and talk with us. This county commission is the only one that's listed. The only one that's listed. And you'll never know how much I appreciate that. Because at least I feel like I have been able to share the concerns of the people of Madison County. And I feel like I'm getting support. The only problem is where do we go from here? I don't know. The health board was our only shot.
Ms. Tedford.
Let me add one thing. Mr. Johnson, you're assuming that the Board of Health members only read what y'all presented. We had several board members that did their own investigation and talked to other people and read other things. Our issue from a health department standpoint in regulations is all of the regulations that we do in our environmental department come down through the Tennessee Department of Health. And that Board of Health, while we can make more stringent regulations, as long as we're not more lax than the state, there are no regulations in the Department of Health for us to regulate ag in any form or fashion. So that's where we were coming, I think that's where the board was coming from. We don't have any regulations to adopt or regulate from the Department of Health.
Is there a regulation that says you can't regulate it?
I don't know the answer to that.
So, and my thinking on that is, if there's not a regulation stating you can't do it, it's just like states' rights, it's just like county rights. If it's not regulated that you can't do it, then mean you can do it, because that means you're more stringent.
Commissioner Wall.
In light of the information that was given, Mr. Chairman, already, and the fact that I think that Ms. Tedford needs time to maybe research some of the questions that have been raised, as well as the rest of the commission. I make a motion we table this until next month, and let's for further discussion next month.
There's nothing on the floor. There's nothing to table.
There's not a motion on the floor to table.
Yeah, there's no motion on the floor.
This is just a report from the participants.
Can I make one final comment?
Yes.
I apologize for taking so much time.
Okay.
But one of the things is, the regulations that was presented were proposed. It doesn't say you've got to do it exactly this way. It doesn't mean you have to have the manpower to do certain things that could be put in place. That could be done easily. If we could sit down and even work this out. But we've never had the opportunity.
We did look at the proposal, and we sat down with our environmental staff, and we had concerns. She had concerns from an environmental standpoint and the way that they regulate hotels, restaurants, pools, the things that they do regulate. So all that was taken into consideration also. I can't speak for the board. I'm not a voting member.
Right, I understand that. And I want to say this, you've done an excellent job with the pandemic, with the everything at the fairgrounds. I mean, it's been good. I have nothing but good things to say. Only thing is, why wasn't we at least allowed to at least exchange ideas, at least to discuss it, where we know what's coming from? I can pile you up with so much information. You only got 3 letters in the cited document.
Commissioner Alexander.
Can I make a motion that we put this on the agenda for February?
Sure can.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to apply this to agenda in February. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Who seconded that?
Well,
Wall. All right. Thank you, all. Item number 4.
Hey, wait a minute.
Oh, Kim, you got more?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
All right, we're 10 months into this pandemic, and as of today, Madison County's had over 10,000 cases of COVID. Currently, we're dealing with a little over 1,000 active cases. Sadly, we've had 159 deaths in this county, and this group is not immune to that, as we all know. The good news is we currently have 2 vaccines that have been approved by the FDA for emergency use authorization. We received our first shipment on December the 21st, and as of Friday, we have administered 5,449 doses of 5,600 doses that we've received. And today starts our first day of administering second doses to some of those first people that got that. So it's been a busy month for vaccinating. Between us and West Tennessee Healthcare, 6.5% of the population of Madison County have been vaccinated. So we're actually sitting in the top 3 counties across the state with the highest percentage of the population being vaccinated. If you haven't received yours, be patient. The month of January is going to be a slow month for receiving vaccine. We've already been told that at the beginning of the month. We're receiving a little bit, probably 1 tray a week throughout the rest of this month. We hope that that increases the month of February. We are currently vaccinating school staff, which is part 1B of the phase that the Tennessee Department of Health rolled out. We did the entire public school system on Friday, and then on Wednesday we'll be doing the transportation individuals with the public, and then we'll be doing the private schools on Wednesday also. We're still in the 75 and older population, hopefully fixing to roll out the 70 plus population. It all depends on the availability of the vaccine. Appreciate your support, and we'll continue to vaccinate as quickly as we get vaccine.
You mentioned that you were intending or expecting to address the 70 and below and additional vaccine. Do you have an idea of when you will be vaccinate this group?
The 70 and older?
Yes, we're doing second for the first group.
We're going to start making plans this week. We've got to give the 75 and older population a second chance to get that vaccine. We're also looking at situations where the 75 and older population can't get out of their house. They may not be in an extended living facility or a long-term care facility, but they're being cared for by family or caregivers at home. So we've got some ideas of how to reach that population, and we're going to have some strike teams going out and going into homes to do that. So we need to get that population taken care of before we move on to the 70 and older.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4. As all of you know, we lost one of our members last month, and then this past month, James Pearson, to COVID-19. So it makes us all very aware how real that it is. And I'd like to ask all of y'all to stand. I want to ask Dan Morris to pray for his family. James Pearson, County Commissioner.
Father, we come to you and we lift up the family of James Pearson. We ask you to comfort. We ask you to console. And Lord, again, we come to you and we lift our county up to you, our city, this nation. We ask you to heal our land, heal your people. Protect us from this disease. We ask you to cast it out of our nation. We ask you, Father, to minister to those who are suffering, and for our caregivers, for our physicians, for our first responders, all those that are tending to the sick. We ask you to protect them, and Lord, we ask you to bless them as they do their work. We ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dan. I would like to say a few words about James. I think, this is a political body. We don't all have the same political viewpoints. But in James's position, I was always very impressed with his ability to present his case in a very gentlemanlike way, in a way that he got his point across, whether you agreed or whether you didn't. He was a very gentle man, a very respected man. I think this total body, I don't know anyone on this body who didn't respect him. So would anyone like to make a comment about James? Surely someone would. I know you have to, Commissioner.
I have to. This touched me greatly. I played with this fellow as a child, almost every day. His character and his parents and his whole family, the indoctrination was all the things that makes America great and make parents happy. He had a strong father who used to serve on this board, who taught him and a lot of kids, a family of a lot of kids. And the thing is that rather than just mourning the loss of Pearson, I hope that we will stop and look at and research how he became the man who served on this commission. We could all be blessed and improved by it. I'm going to miss him greatly. He didn't have as many opinions as I did, but he stood strongly on his opinions. And the thing that I like so much is he was interested in researching why you disagreed with him. I don't know if you heard me, you missed it. He didn't just disagree with you for the sake of disagreeing. He was concerned about why you disagreed with him. And because of that, that kind of integrity will be missed in this commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Yes, I totally agree. He was a man of that had very good character. The times I disagreed with him, we discussed why we disagreed, and we still left understanding he had one position that I may have had another position. But he was a good example for all of us to how to handle a situation in a very peaceful way and a very respectful way. Item number 5, report from my school superintendent, Dr. Marlon King.
Good morning. I have 4 areas that I'll talk about. One is the budget. At this point, we are at 46% spending of our budget, down by 4%. Looking at ways to make sure that we submit a balanced budget. Last year, we went into fund balance about $3 million. I don't want to go into fund balance to balance the budget, so we're really watching different areas. Also, we're planning our 5-year strategic plan with a really strong focus on literacy and teaching the science of reading. And so I'll be bringing that information back to the commission and sharing with you all what this 5-year strategic plan will look like. For student enrollment, we are shy about 249 students. So when compared to other counties around us, that's relatively low. When we look at the data of where our students are, where we have the most number of students who are missing from schools, it would probably be the south corridor of our community. And I think that is attributed to the connectivity in that area. It's very difficult for families to get on in that area. So we will be finding ways to provide more access to that community, but also across the board for students. The superintendent teacher cabinet is working now to make certain that we provide more in-person days for our students. So that will come out in a couple of weeks as we get a chance to see what the vaccine looks like for employees, as well as moving forward and looking at data in schools. The next to the last thing is our LOOP program. Regions Bank had sponsored 2 students to partner with the school system. These students are working in our maintenance department on the job training so that we can start growing our own. And so we were very excited about expanding that partnership for our students in the community. And lastly, our ESSER 2.0. ESSER is federal dollars. It's coming from stimulus. We have about $16 million coming to the school system probably in the next couple of months. We are in the budget around that, and we'll definitely be making certain that we look at those one-time expenditures that's in our current budget and how can we offset it with this right here. Are there any questions?
Mr. Bush.
I was doing the math the other day, and I think our students have had just over 40 in-person instruction days since last March. And you briefly mentioned it, but I just want to know, what sort of criteria are you looking at to return our in-person students to a normal schedule, and do you think that's going to happen before the school year is over?
To answer the last part, yes, it's going to happen before the school year is over. When we came back January the 4th, the superintendent's teacher cabinet met. We had teachers from a teacher representative from every school. What we wanted to do was actually look at, one was the number of days in-person students would have this month. That would have been 8 days. I've explained to the committee my desire to have more in-person days. We wanted to look at the surge or what would happen after the break in terms of spread of COVID-19 in schools. Now that we see that and we've gotten a vaccine, and for our employees, we are more comfortable moving forward with an option to make certain that we have more in-person days. So hopefully by February, we'll see more days for our in-person students.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. King. Item number 6, report from our financial director, Mrs. Karen Bell.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to introduce my intern, who I failed to mention in a couple of committee meetings. Andrew Whitnell is with us from Union University for the month of January, and so today I invited him to be here to see the culmination of all the meetings that he's attended this month. So we're very glad to have Andrew working with us and exposing him. Thank you, Andrew. The next thing is, normally at this time I review the debt service with you every month. I review the fund balances. But there are a lot of things, moving parts that are going on in Madison County, so I put together a culmination of a presentation. Fortunately for me, I present the data and you, the funding body, have to make decisions. So I just kind of wanted you to see some of the decisions that are going to have to come up that you're going to have to make. And again, I tend to talk fast, so feel free to raise your hand, slow me down if I mention something. One of the things that I want to stress, that I stress in every one of my staff meetings with all of my staff is, we're Madison County. We're not the school system, the sheriff's department, juvenile court services. You have the responsibility of funding projects for all of Madison County. I shared with Dr. King and Dr. Catlin at a meeting on Friday, I said, we are Madison County. We kind of laughed. If any of you have seen the movie, We Are Marshall. But that's what we are. We're Madison County. So what I'm going to present to you today is things that you are going to have to consider in the next 3 to 5 years as you develop a budget for this year, some upcoming things that are going to face you. So in this presentation, we're going to go over that. The first thing that I want to review with you that you have to face every year is maintenance of effort. And for those of you who may hear that term thrown around, I want to explain exactly what maintenance of effort is. Maintenance of effort, often referred to as MOE, places a requirement on the funding body, that's you, the county commission, to maintain and demonstrate the same level of funding from year to year at a constant level. In the Madison County budget, there are entities that must be maintained at an MOE level requirement. These requirements prevent local governments from substituting funds or local revenues as state or federal funding increases. These entities in Madison County, which have an MOE, of course, is the school system, as you know, and that can be adjusted based on their BEP numbers that are released by the Department of Education. The Sheriff's Department, as you know, which was clearly defined in our lawsuit most recently. The other bodies that we have to look at is the Highway Department because of the average, 5-year average that we have, the Library, and the Election Commission. So just want to make sure that all of you understand the term maintenance of effort when we talk about that with the budget. The next component that I think is very important for you to look at is our current debt service. Madison County has done an excellent job at maintaining their debt service, and I know that a lot of you say, well, we've done really well, so we can possibly borrow more or move out. Just going to review the numbers of where you are on that. At the conclusion of this fiscal year, June 30th, your principal balance will be $65,145,000. However, I want to remind you that we have a commitment to begin our lease payments beginning July 1 for the JCM project. This will increase your debt service annually $1,256,576. You'll be faced with that $1,200,000 for the next 7 years tacked onto your debt service until we get to year 2027, when we have a balloon payment that's due in the amount of $17,683,080, or we refinance, or determining what we do. Then at the end of FY22, your debt service will be $55,300,000 with the current issuance. However, with the $1,200,000, that makes it be $56,302,576. And again, it goes on. FY23 will be at $48,875,576. FY24, $42,467,576. So I wanted to review the debt service with you. The next component that's very important for you to understand is where, when you approve a tax rate, where those pennies allocated and what funds. Currently, the tax rate in Madison County is $2.35. And as you can see, and I'm going to, again, focus on debt service since we're talking about new projects that I'm fixing to be presenting to you. The debt service fund currently has, in our proposed budget, 0.4961 of our pennies going to debt service. You also see we have capital projects and education capital, because again, as I review these projects, that's going to be very important for you to focus on. Right, the next thing that I'd like to go over is some of the projects that have most recently been discussed. Some are right here, just about to hit you in the face, so to speak. We have a new jail that is supposed to be completed September, October of 2021. With that new jail comes needs for furniture, equipment, and some other things. At this time, you'll notice I've got a question mark there because we've not gotten an estimate or anything as to what that's going to cost us. We've been working with the Sheriff's Department people asking that, but I can't plug a number in because I don't know.
Karen, hold this 1 second.
Sure.
Sheriff, can you give us any timetable on that?
Well, we're working with our architects and all of them and looking to see what we're going to need to carry over and what we're going to need. So, we've kind of pushed them hard. And so we're hoping within the next month or two we'll have some idea of what we're going to need. So,
what is the biggest holdup on them getting a number to us?
well, I guess, looking at once this new things that they're doing right now in the building goes in and how it lays out, exactly, what kind of equipment they're going to have. We located like the dental chairs and all of that. Being able to locate some people who can get that for us at a reduced rate. And so once they can kind of tell us what's going to need to go in there, then we'll know. And our mattresses and bedding and all of that, right now, we got to find a place to store it. And that's a problem. Because if you don't have a controlled environment, it may deteriorate. So it's lots of things that were going into the jail that they were figuring on turned out, like the cells that we have, the steel cells. Some of that was included in the steel cells. It's already included. And so just give us a month or two, and hopefully we'll have that back from them, and we'll get a layout and know exactly what we're going to do.
Carol.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. For a couple of months, to my knowledge, probably you would have known longer, this question has been up in the air. A couple of months from now, we're looking at April. Either that will or will not, or should or should not be, because some decisions need to be made in this year's budget. Which means that if we can't get this information before then we'll possibly have to wait another year for this, because if the kind of things you're talking about, you don't make last minute decisions on it, and you cannot impede the assessment of what debt service and capital outlay is required. So I want somebody to give, are my assumptions correct?
Your assumptions are exactly correct.
You're
Yes,
exactly
sir.
right, Commissioner Brown. That's the number we need before 2 months. We need it within the next few weeks, I would think. And Sheriff, you're saying that architect is holding us up on this?
Well, yes, sir. They're part of the problem, trying to get all that together. Some things that we have bought, like y'all approved laundry, some of the laundry items, washing machines and dryers that wore out. We're carrying that over and bought it so that we'll fit in that jail. So some things like that we would not, that we normally would have to buy, we've already bought.
All right, sir, thank you.
All right, so as we looked at the project, I mentioned the JCM lease payment that will begin July 1 with our FY22 budget. We've talked about the needs for the jail. Another one that we have that is pending that we will have to move on and make some purchases, and Dr. King and I are working very closely together on this, is the equipment and furniture needs for JCM and Madison. The projections at this time are 2.9 and 2.1, but I will have to applaud Dr. King and his staff. He has acquired a lot of furniture from some state surplus, and so they're working to try to shave that number down. He hopes to have that relatively quickly, I would say probably within the next couple of weeks. But right now, we're going to plug in $5 million because that was the estimation. And in answer to your question, Commissioner Brown, one of the things that we're looking at is whether or not we'll do a bank qualified to meet the needs of the equipment for the jail and the needs for JCM, or whether it needs to be long-term debt. I've been working with Stevens Incorporated Ashley on that, and as recently as Thursday of last week, he gave me the rates for a bank qualified right now is 1.27% interest, and a long term will be 1.42. So again, if it's less than 10 million, we can do a bank qualified, but I don't have enough variables to make that decision or to present to you at this time. Additional needs, as you remember last year when I arrived, we did a 3-year capital outlay budget, so to speak, of estimated capital needs for departments. That right now, if you look at the 3-year projections, and we have those, the data on the spreadsheets and that, range anywhere from 2.5 to 4 million, and this is for all county departments as far as the needs that they're submitting. The education capital needs over the next 3 years that has been presented to us at this time ranges from 6.8 to 16.1 million. Of course, you know, a new Pope school has been talked about. And again, the variations range on that as far as pricing, because as you know, lumber costs, construction costs have greatly increased. So we plugged in 24 to 30 million there. Again, that's an unknown for sure. There were some of you, if you've had an opportunity to attend some of Dr. King's meetings recently, he has presented a plan called Community, and in that plan has some additional things that they would like to put in their strategic plans, which is a multi-purpose stadium. Right now, I've plugged in 10 to 15 million for that. Renovations to Pope School to turn into a teacher training center and a cyber school socialization point for those students who choose cyber school. And then, of course, renovations to Melissa's school, because what his thoughts are, he'd like to put one north and south. And again, these are unknown costs. So again, I'm just kind of showing you what you're going to be faced with. The next one, the next slide that I'd like to review is, in addition to long-term capital needs, operational costs that will increase. I talked to our insurance consultant on our benefits cost. He projects those over the next 3 years to increase 8 to 10%. And when I say benefits cost, that's the cost of the benefits that you provide to your employee, the insurances and the other things that are provided to our employees to keep a good workforce. The next thing that we looked at, fuel cost. Currently, in talking with our risk manager, Mike Winslow, we have 434 vehicles. Majority are gas vehicles, but also diesel. Again, those costs are anticipated to rise. If any of you filled up recently, you've seen in the last couple of weeks, it's been an increase statewide of about 17 cents a gallon. Utilities, talked to someone at Jackson Energy Authority. They felt like plugging in 2.5% annually on utility cost at this time is what we're looking at as we face. Insurance costs, property and liability, of course, as you know, depending on the number of claims and the things that go around, we bear the bulk of increases there. And a plug cost of living, and I know all of you are sitting here saying, well, we just gave our employees a 3% raise, and that's great. But again, remember, I'm talking 3 to 5 years. I don't think your employees are going to work for you for 5 years without a raise, especially if you're going to increase their benefits. So I wanted to throw that out there as things that you're going to have to think about as you're preparing and presenting a budget and planning for your long-term needs. The next slide, again, it goes over the JCM capital needs that I've already mentioned, 6.8 to 16.1 million. And Michelle, you can go on down through to the, again, this is what they have submitted for their 3 to 5 years. Next is the county 3-year plan that we also have. Now, the capital committee met, And as you know, there's intentions of 1.2 million, right about 1.2 million, to be used this year for some of the capital needs. And the hold on that is we still do not have the final Madison County audit. So I have asked them to wait until we get the audited fund balance numbers so that we know for sure it agrees with what we're showing on our books. So we anticipate that money being spent in the next 4 to 6 weeks once that's appropriated. Be happy to answer any questions. I know that's a lot of information, but I think it was important that we show where we are and where we're going, because these are needs that have been presented from all of your departments. And again, you are Madison County.
Commissioner Hale.
Ms. Bell, just curious, and you may not have the information just off the top of your head, but if not, if you could bring it back to us next month, the number of county employees that are paid less than $15 an hour, do you know what that would be?
I can work with our new HR director on that. We can definitely work on that project.
Okay, just curious. And then second, would you just, when we're on definitions of things that we're responsible for, just explain what an unfunded mandate is and maybe just help us understand how that process plays out.
Well, unfunded mandates would be anything that's regulated by the state or federal government that they send down that we must address. And so those are things that we have to take care of that may be unanticipated as far as in your funding and allocations. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about unfunded mandate. Many times the federal or state government will send some regulations or requirements down that doesn't have money attached to it.
Any other questions? As you can see, we have a lot on the table, and the key point of it is I don't think anything that Karen has presented to us that we don't agree with that we'd like to do. The timetable is when can we do it and when can we afford to pay for it. So all those things we have to make some good, responsible decisions on. Right now, I know that many of you are looking and pushing hard for Polk Elementary, and rightfully so. But at the present time, can we do that without a tax increase? I'm not sure we know that answer yet, but we're working on it. Anybody else have any questions? All right, move right along. Thank you, Karen. Very good presentation. Item number 7, report from county officials, standing special committees, any old business and action thereof by this board. Commissioner Arnold.
Mr. Chairman, Madison County Beer Board met on Tuesday, January the 12th. We had one application. That application was from Mr. Narendra Mudi, and the place of business is 2380 Highway 18. It was for on and off premises beer permit, and that was approved.
That was, you said was approved? Was approved?
Yes.
Mr. Cobb.
Mr. Chairman, Legislative Resolutions Committee met, and we had 2 resolutions that we brought up. We've had a couple changes since then, but the one that I can bring to you as a committee recommendation was a resolution that's authorizing a grant application by Madison County, Tennessee to be submitted to Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development to complete improvements to fire department services capabilities. Basically, this grant, Mr. Chairman, is this resolution is approving the county to apply for the grant for the Madison County Fire Department. It is a matching grant of 12%, where we would get $419,116, and we would be on the hook for $57,152. This grant, if awarded to us, would go to a pumper truck that is in the chief's capital plan anyway, so it's trucks that we're going to have to buy. So if we apply for the grant and get it, basically we're going to get a pumper for $57,000 rather than $500,000. So this resolution was approved by the committee and brings to you as a committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Mr. Chairman, the second resolution that was brought up had to do with the creation of our bicentennial committee. It's basically creating a bicentennial committee as the official committee for Madison County, as well as for the city's bicentennial. So the city council will also vote to pass this resolution. And all this is doing is making them official. And they are looking at becoming a 501c3 to take donations to be able to plan the celebrations for the county and the city over the next 2 years. Since we met, there were basically 2 minor adjustments that Attorney Maroney had to send with a couple corrections. It didn't change anything to do with the actual meat of the resolution, but it did change the resolution that we're voting on. And since it went out after 5 days, or within 5 days of the commission meeting, I do ask that so that we can suspend the rules to take this up. So motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Have a motion second to suspend the rules. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
And so I now make a motion that we approve the resolution to create the bicentennial committee that Attorney Maroney sent out over the weekend.
Have a motion.
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Hale. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Compton. Commissioner Hale.
Yes, sir. The Personnel Committee met and took up one item that comes as a recommendation from the committee. The COVID Relief Act that the federal government passed expired on December 31st. And that act basically, the main meat and potatoes that we're addressing today is the 60% reimbursement of pay that could come and from the government. That stopped. We want to be able to continue to offer that to our employees. And so our committee met and made the recommendation to retain and enact the leave policies utilized by the county since the enactment of the FFCRA until February 28, 2021.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Commissioner Petty.
Thank you, Chairman. The property committee met. We have a couple of matters we need to discuss. Number one, there's a city of Three-Way had leased a meeting room from us that it was on a 99-year lease for $1 a year. And they are asking to be released from that lease since they have gotten their new facilities built. And so it's just a meeting room that was attached to the fire station up there at Three-Way. And the chief said they used it all the time anyway. So it's just a matter of granting them a release, and came forth with this committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Commissioner Arnold.
I'm sorry, I'm not up to date on this. What is it that we're trying to prove?
It's a meeting room that Three-Way had that they no longer use. They had a 99-year lease on, and they won't have it.
Meeting room in the fire station.
Fire station.
And you're talking about a county commission meeting there?
No, that was Three-Way was meeting there.
Oh, okay.
Three-Way, the city of Three-Way.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know we talked about this other meeting place, and just want to make sure we were going to report to the right place.
Thank you for clearing that up.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No.
Second thing I've got is that there are some sinkholes developing on the airport property. And I'll turn it over to Steve back here and let him kind of fill y'all in, because he's got more of the facts than I've got. And there's pictures on the screen up there.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Chairman, I was notified on the 6th of January from Dark Lingerie, who leases this portion for Scully's Golf Course. Great thing about our airport is it's built in a really flat area. The bad thing about our airport is it's built in a really flat area. So drainage has always been an issue. The old Westover Road, there's nobody in here that remembers that, but years ago that was Highway 70. And there's some drainage structures, Ms. Katie, you don't remember that. There's some drainage structures in that area that obviously appear to have been built by the WPA. And when you buy a piece of property like the county bought this property in 1978, the infrastructure that's there, you just kind of take for granted that it's always going to be there. We don't know what's causing this problem. When I first saw this problem on the 6th, my first call was to Mike Winslow, County Loss Prevention, because we don't want a golf cart load of anybody driving off in either one of these holes. This is the largest hole. You could very, very easily put a Volkswagen Beetle in there and still have room to put several tons of dirt on top of it. We don't know where this is going. Our second call was to Bart Walls, who's an engineer. And so what we're looking at doing is maybe some exploratory work. Currently, we know that the small hole most definitely is in the middle of the 9th fairway, and that is on the airport property. This large hole that's just developed there is right at the corner of, I call it a spillway, but if anybody's played out there, you know, you'll see on the 9th fairway, there's, I think engineers call it a drained flume. It's a concrete area that has been built years and years ago, probably in the 30s or 40s out there to draw water away from this area. We have a survey crew on site this morning to make absolutely certain that this hole that you're looking at is on county property. If it is, our request is to allow the county highway department, and Bart has graciously agreed, to go out there and do some exploratory work so we can just see exactly where this is. The airport authority has agreed to reimburse the county for that cost. Bart tells me it'll be less than $5,000, so we've had that conversation amongst the airport authority members. So our request this morning is just to allow the highway department to go out and dig around on what we know for sure is county property and figure out what it's going to take to stop this issue. The county's owned this property since about 1978 or so, and it's leased to the operators of Scully Golf Course. So,
how many sinkholes do you have? 2? How deep are they?
This one is probably 12 or 15 feet deep. The small one is about as big around as a 5-gallon bucket, but it's 8 feet deep. So we really feel like that there's a compromised drainage structure in here somewhere, probably from the 1940s. So that's what we're looking for.
Mark's not here today. We have Wilson here from the highway department, and he has the authority. Anything you want to add to that?
Superintendent Paul's not able to be here this morning. He sent word that he would support any recommendation from the property committee on his body vote. Now he's working with Mr. Smith on the problem.
Oh, well, anybody didn't hear that.
Well,
hey, what did he say?
Superintendent Walls couldn't be here this morning.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, and he did send word that we'd willing, the highway department be willing, he's in support of the recommendation of the property committee on working with the airport on this issue.
I've spoken with him, Mr. Chairman, and what we're putting forth today is a recommendation from the property committee that we allow the highway department to assist the airport board in trying to find out what the cause is. And they expected the cost to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 or less. And so we're just asking for the permission to allow the highway department to assist the airport board for that function. And that's a committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion?
Might add that the county will not be out any expense. They will fully reimburse us.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
The last thing I've got is that now that the health board has made their announced decision regarding the chicken barns, the property committee has no secondary options at this time, and talking with Representative Todd from the state level offered no assistance there, that any route that we could follow, and so we're open to suggestions, and if we need to bring this back up to at our next meeting, we'll be happy to discuss. So if anybody has anything,
it will be on February's agenda.
Anything, any ideas? Mike? assist you with, we'd be glad to do so.
It's on February's agenda.
That's right, it's the second Tuesday of February, and it'll be at 11 a.m. Right, and one other thing, from the Conservation Board, I think the board is working on interviews at this time, and the chairman had asked for all the other board members to review what applicants they had and turned in a suggested list to him that was due the 15th. And so, I'm sorry about that, that's not the 15th, it's today, today's the 19th. And that he would ask for them to and make a final group that they want to do the interviews. So hopefully we'll get a director from that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other reports? Item number 8, any amendments or transfers to the general fund, school department, capital projects, highway department, debt service, juvenile court service, for the budget year of 2020-2021.
Morning, Mr.
Mayor.
Mr. Johnson was absent from the finance committee meeting as well as today. I think he said he's going to try to come back next month, but he's just afraid to get out and about. So, finance committee did meet. You see amendments on the board there. Number 1, this is under general purpose school, $40,000. This is a grant provides funding to allow middle school students to further explore future career opportunities in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics field. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 2, $10,000. This is new money as well. This grant provides funding for 2 students in the local options and opportunities program, the LOOP program, to work in Madison County School System Maintenance Department and for instructional supplies purchases for classroom teachers at Liberty, West Bemis Middle School, and Nova Pre-K Learning Center. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 3, huge sum of $64. This amendment aligns the general budget to the Revision 1 budget approved by the state, moving the remaining funds from instructional equipment to supplies. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 4, $15,000. This is from educational capital. This amendment transfers funds to cover engineering services for the design, specifications, or surveillance systems, access control system, intercom, and voice data cabling at Madison Academic, JCM, and JCM Fieldhouse. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 5 is fire department. This is new money, a reimbursement for live burn training and dispatch training. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 6, fire department, $2,000 general fund, reimbursement for live burning training and dispatch training.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 7, circuit court clerk, $14,818. Refund for buyout of lease agreement with Novatech moving to Conica Copier. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 8, juvenile court clerk, refund $1,744.36. Refund from Dex Imaging to reimburse JCC to pay off copier lease from CIT. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 9, Sheriff's Department, $4,671.49. Record SRO ball game overtime reimbursement. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Number 10, Archives Preservation of Records, $2,750. This is a new state grant for archival boxes for storing Chancery Court files and records. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 11, Sheriff's Department, $7,000 general fund, budgeting equitable sharing funds for laptops. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 12, Finance Sheriff's Department, $1,963.20. Correct termination payouts for Sheriff's Department employees in September. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 13, Finance Sheriff's Department, $1,926.76. Correct termination payouts for Sheriff's Department employees in October. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Finance, $3,046,404 capital fund to separate grants into cost centers. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 15, Fire Department, $6,000 general fund, line item transfer due to line running short due to budget cuts. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 16, County Commission, $500 general fund, set up travel line item, transfer funds from office supplies. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 17, finance payouts, $9,232.82 from general fund. That's $2,089.92 pulled from fund balance. This is termination payouts for Sheriff's Department employees in December. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Have one no. All in favor say aye. Aye. One no.
Number 18, finance retirement incentive, $86,058.93 retirement incentive and termination payouts in December. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No.
Number 19, finance retirement incentives, $26,332.27 out of the highway fund, retirement incentive and termination payouts in December. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Number 20, finance, 3% employee raises, $212,282.64, 3% increase for employees in general fund. Committee recommendation.
Committee recommendation, no second required. Any discussion? Commissioner Brown.
Since all three of the following items are dealing with the 3% raise, can we take all three of them together?
Second.
Go right ahead. All three of them. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Okay, 21, finance 3% raises for juvenile court services, $27,719.43. Number 22, 3% raise on solid waste fund, $6,634.53. And then 3% raises highway fund, $25,584.79 for raising the highway fund. All of these are committee recommendations. So moved.
Committee recommendation, no second required. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
on the payouts, I assume all that's been taken care of now, right? On the payouts earlier, the incentive.
Yes, as far as I know it has.
Is this something that we would consider been successful, and how much total money was paid for all departments.
Karen, can you answer that question?
Sure. Unfortunately, I taught at the financial management. I can't give you numbers exactly right now. Let me tell you why, Commissioner Arnold. A lot of the departments, I don't know if they're going to replace those positions. That's still, the incentive was through December the 11th. Those employees have left. I can give you 2 examples of what I know from my own. In my department, Mr. Bill Vinson retired as purchasing director. Of course, we did replace that position. It was a needed position. However, the county commission, Ms. Brenda Sidoris, retired, and Sarah is going to be doing, we have combined and we'll be doing both jobs. So what I'm going to be doing over the coming months, and hopefully I can give you a better picture in the next month or so, is to the retirees that we had, which we only had 11. We took advantage of that, okay? So out of that, I'll have to see whether departments are going to replace those positions. So I'll report back to you on that.
My understanding was there would not be replacements for them if they...
Well, it depended on if there was a need. There was talked about whether they would replace it with a person at a lower cost, which is what we did in Mr. Benson's place, or not replace it at all. So again, with these constitutional offices, we can't tell them what to do. And again, a purchasing director for the finance department was essential that we replace, because that position does handle purchasing for the entire county, including the school system. But in the case of Sarah with Ms. Brenda Sidoris, we were able to combine those, and we know there's going to be some savings there.
Let me clarify item number 16, which says county commission travel $500. That is not for a county commissioner, that is for a county commissioner secretary moving from place to place.
Yeah, that is for her mileage. When the budget was cut, the mileage was not, and as you know, Sarah does go wherever you guys are to set it up, so this reimburses her mileage. Also, in taking on Miss Brenda's position, she's having to make several trips to the courthouse during the week to get some things recorded, so this is just for her mileage, and it was pulled from office supplies, because now instead of 2 people using office supplies, you only have 1, so there's consolidation.
I didn't want y'all thinking Claudia Brown was getting travel expense.
So are you saying that that was not for my law plate? Just saying.
That's all of that, Mr. Chairman. I think my report's next. Just a couple of things. I think y'all know that Regetta, that works with me, her and her husband both contracted COVID over Christmas. Regetta was out for a couple of weeks, came back to work last Monday. Her husband went to the hospital, stayed in the hospital, and he died the day before yesterday. So I wanted to let y'all know that, so y'all can keep her and him in your prayers. The estimates and some kind of more layouts as far as the proposed commission meeting room at the finance department, we hope to have sometime this week. I mean, she's getting there, but we haven't got it yet, so there will be something to look at for sure next month, and probably Harold at the committee, I mean at the property committee meeting, when y'all's meeting comes up.
All right, thank you.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, can you get Regetta's arrangements, send out those an email?
Yeah, we will. They have no arrangements to make yet.
Thank you.
Number 9 is no more for you, Mayor. Mayor, number 9, that's it, okay. Item number 10, consideration of a resolution to rezone property located at, where's Stan? Here comes Stan Fowler. Item number 10 and item number 11.
All right, so you have the materials pertinent to this rezoning request. It's in your packet. This item was presented to the Planning Commission at their last meeting, and they are recommending it to you. This is an area that, for the most part, was already zoned commercial, but it was zoned for a shopping center district, and this area of Highland is not going to develop that way. The other developments that have occurred in the area are not shopping center related, so they're just converting this to a different commercial class. So again, the Planning Commission has recommended it to you.
This is a public hearing. Do we have anyone speak for it or opposed to it? Anyone? This is recommended by the Planning Department. Any other discussion? Yes, ma'am, step forward.
I just need to ask a question on the rezoning. Does that raise our taxes if we're in the county?
Ma'am, come on up here. We can't hear you.
On the rezoning, Does that raise our taxes? Because we're in the county.
No, ma'am, we're not raising taxes.
That has to be a referendum, correct?
I can't hear you.
If you want to raise taxes, it has to be a referendum, correct?
No, ma'am.
No?
No.
When did that change?
Never has been that way.
Okay. So we're not going to...
We're not gonna raise your taxes. Not now, anyway.
Yeah, right.
And just so you know, in terms of zoning, property is taxed on how it's used, not how it's zoned. And that's related to the property assessor. So they appraise property, and if you are zoned a certain way, but the property is still vacant or not being used, you're not taxed differently. It's just taxed how it's used.
Okay, now this particular 100 acres is Simon and Schuster warehouse, correct? But the one
No.
we're concerned about is the 100 acres where they're possibly going to put a strip mall.
Okay, this property is along Highland, is already zoned commercial. They're just changing from one commercial class to another. It's not, right now, it's not being used in any kind of way. It's been zoned commercial for a long time.
It's going to stay commercial?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else? Commissioner Jordan.
Motion to move forward as recommended.
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None.
I second.
Correct.
Go on. I got it. Okay. Go ahead, Stan. Item number 11.
All right. On number 11, you have the materials purchased for this rezoning request. This was presented to the Planning Commission at their last meeting, and they are recommending it to you. And you have our recommendations in your packet. This is an area that's being zoned to allow a solar farm. It's adjacent to the airport industrial park. The zoning class that they're asking for is the same zoning class that the airport industrial park is zoned, so it's an extension of that zone. I'll be happy to answer any questions. There's also representatives from Silicon Ranch, and there's also some constituents, I think, that want to speak.
So there's a public hearing. Anyone want to speak for it or in opposition to it?
Over here.
Yes, sir. Come on forward.
Thank you. My name is Chris Bowles. I'm an attorney representing Silicon Ranch Corporation, who's the developer on this proposed solar project. To give you a little bit of background on the company, Silicon Ranch was founded nearly 10 years ago. It is a Tennessee-based solar company. They are, unlike many developers, an owner-operator. I've been working with them nearly since their inception, and they have not sold a single project during that time. And I've also never seen them fail to successfully develop a project during that time. And so I will say they are very, very committed to being good corporate citizens as they continue to conduct business in the community for the long term. And that's something that I know they're very committed to. So this is a solar farm, as Mr. Pilot mentioned, a solar farm development to generate electricity for a TVA program. That's an economic development program in partnership with JEA. The way that this program works is TVA takes requests from retail customers, corporate clients, economic development targets in the state of Tennessee and matches those with new sources of clean electricity generation. And I should say also one of, if not the cheapest new form of electricity generation today. And this project is obviously supported by TVA. It's supported by JEA, who spoke in favor at the Planning Commission meeting. And I'll also note that it will bring $90 million of investment, converting property that's currently taxed at agricultural use and nearly double or more than double that assessment on the land alone, and substantially increasing the tax revenue there. And this is frankly one of the best transitional uses from an industrial area to agricultural or residential areas, because this technology is nearly silent, odorless, doesn't bring any new traffic to the area once construction is complete. Construction is a relatively rapid process for something that's covering a over 900-acre span. And frankly, it's actually going to continue to be used for agriculture. Silicon Ranch has a program called Regenerative Energy that uses typically sheep to continue to graze as a means of maintaining the property and maintaining the health of the soil, so that at the end of the life of the solar project, it can be easily reconverted into farmland if that's the intended use at that time. I will also note that there has been discussion between Silicon Ranch, myself as attorney, and Mr. Bryce Meeks, who is a neighboring landowner, who has, as we understand it, concerns over views from his property. Silicon Ranch has been working in good faith to come up with an arrangement that would work both to allow the economical development of the project and do what the company can to alleviate Mr. Meeks' concerns. We thought we had a deal up until a conversation last week where we were informed that arrangement we thought was agreed to is no longer sufficient for Mr. Meeks. The company is continuing to commit to additional discussions with Mr. Meeks and to additional discussions, hopefully with each and every member of this commission. We have heard some discussion this morning of potentially tabling this for consideration at next month's meeting. The company is supportive of that. Again, wants to be the best corporate citizen it can be, and wants to continue this dialogue if anyone has any questions between now and consideration of this.
Commissioner Spearman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions, not only me, but the other citizens in that area outside of Mr. Meeks. What's the standard protocol you all put those buffers outside of people's property line? How far they go past the standard, typically?
That varies greatly depending on surrounding use and the zoning. I'll note that this use, electricity generating facilities, is a use permitted on appeal in an I-2 zone, so that will go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and any restrictions that might be imposed on that would be imposed at that time. I would say typically 100-foot setback from the property line, and potentially less, potentially more. It depends on the jurisdiction. It depends on the surrounding uses.
So if it's only like 100 foot or less, so that's like what, 7 of me, or maybe 2 of Commissioner Hales, I mean distance, something like that. What? How would you hide that? Is there any kind of way you can? Because honestly, I went out there yesterday and I saw some of the areas that you all have surveyed per se. And you look at the distance behind some of these people's houses, not only Mr. Meeks, but other residents out there. And honestly, it's kind of offensive, you know? Looking at, and don't get me wrong, anybody in this room, we're good with solar energy. I mean, it's one of the best things besides sliced bread. I'm good with that. But the accommodations that it's going to do to people, their property values, and just morally, I mean, it don't say that. It's a lot of constituents out here now that agree, and then also they didn't get the full understanding now. Would you all be willing to, if we was to table this, per se, meet with the people out here? Because a lot of people don't really get to understand, because you all send out notifications saying, talking about manufacturing warehouse.
That's the name of the district that you're asking.
That's the name of the business?
No, it's not the name of the business.
Right.
It's the name of the zoning class that they're asking to zone to. That's the
Okay.
name of it.
Quote unquote solar farm.
No, again, the warehousing, that you said was in the card that got sent out, that's what the zoning class, the I-2 that they're asking for, that's what it's called.
Right.
So that's why it said that.
I got you. Well, again, a lot of homeowners and property owners out there don't really have an understanding, direct understanding of really what's going on up until maybe yesterday, because I went out myself and knocked on doors and got people to understand what was really going on. That's when a lot of them are here now. Because my ears were burning, that's when I had to do it. And also, if I could, Mr. Attorney Soroki, he's attorney, Mr. Bryce Meeks. Whenever you get a chance, can I have him address this?
Commissioner Brown.
My question is to Stan. I've heard in the presentation that the utility, JEA, TVA, all spoke to and supported the zoning. Were citizens, the people concerned now, were they invited? Did they have a chance to speak before the
Yes.
planning office made its recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Because it really doesn't sound, that's why I was just asking, it doesn't sound like.
Well, let me state, the planning commission is not the public hearing.
Where that?
The public hearing is here at your body. So we send out public notices, and that's according to your zoning resolution for Madison County. We send out public notices to property owners when it goes to the county commission, because that's the public hearing. Now, the planning commission notice was advertised. The planning commission information was put out. So were they sent a notice in the mail to attend the planning commission? No. But they were sent a notice for this public hearing in advance of this public hearing, and it also has the ability for them to call. It says what a number to call and ask questions. So that did go out in preceding this meeting. So they did have an opportunity to call. And I met with Mr. Meeks, and we sat down for a little while talking about this. So we did give opportunity for the public to ask questions and to contact us.
Yes, ma'am, you come forward.
I don't feel like that's completely true, because as one of those people that stay out there in that residential area, we tried to go downtown after we've had people creeping around on private property doing surveys, and we've asked the surveyor. I went out in particular and asked him what was he doing. We hadn't paid anybody to survey, and I was concerned that he was creeping around on different people's properties, including ours. Getting kind of close. And nobody would give us any answers. We went downtown to try to get answers from the tax assessor's office. We still couldn't get any answers. The only thing we were told is something was going to happen, and we were going to have to deal with it. That y'all have that zone, it's like industrial. There's residential people that have been living there for years. People have built their homes there. Elderly people are retiring there, thinking that they have their houses paid for, and there's nothing, they don't have anything to worry about. Now this solar farm is going up in between people, behind people's houses, our houses, and it's zigzag. And we're wanting answers to why now and why this particular area is already residential. People have their homes paid for, most of them. And why is it just coming in between there? There's flat land over by the interstate. Nothing is on it. That property's been up for sale for a while. Why is it not being considered to be put there instead of coming behind our property in our community, churches and all? And we just want some answers, because we have received no answers from anyone. Only thing we got was this notice in the mail. And we have tried to ask questions, but we can't get any answers. We were told that a group had paid for the survey and that Matt Kisber had something to do with it, and we didn't have any other answers given to us.
Let me just state that the surveying and the things that she speaks of, that doesn't involve us at all. We don't have anything to do with that. That has to do with Silicon Ranch. Now, the surveying that went on is based on the property owners that you see in your packet that are selling their property if this goes through to Silicon Ranch. Now, as to questions, we have received, other than Mr. Meeks and one other constituent, that's the only questions that we got asked. Now, the property assessor, I'm sure they couldn't provide you answers because they don't have that information. In terms of getting information, Silicon Ranch can provide whatever information, and if you feel like you don't have enough information, then maybe it's wise that you consider giving that opportunity. But again, we received no calls except for 2 when the notices went out.
I'd like to just say this, because I got this card over a month ago. And of course I knew I never got a card before. It had to be because I had some land out there. So of course I had an interest in it. I had so much interest, I showed up early. A month early. You didn't hear from me because I got sick. I think you need to table it.
Let me finish, Mr. Ball. Mr. Ball, you wouldn't finish any other comments you have to make.
Sure, and I appreciate the opportunity to respond to a few comments. Over 50 landowners were mailed a card from Silicon Ranch with contact information in the fall. And I have a list of the names of the neighbors who received it. So I apologize on behalf of the company if a neighboring property owner was not included in that. Mr. Meeks is the only landowner the company has heard from in the months since. And I will mention, as far as the survey is concerned, in order, as all of you know, in order to build something, you have to have a willing seller and a willing buyer. And they have this land currently, Silicon Ranch has this land currently under option, and with the right to go on that land and to survey it, as anyone would when they're buying a large tract of land. And so, I would certainly hope that the surveyor was not trespassing on anyone else's property. That certainly would not be the intent. But I also know the surveyor would not be specifically authorized to divulge anything about his client at that time. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. We will certainly answer any questions. And if I may also mention about Mr. Spearman's comments about the view from a neighboring property. I don't think any landowner can commit to any other landowner that what they do on their property won't be seen. That's just part of being a property owner in the United States of America. Now, the company will work to have landscape screening. There are tree requirements that are sometimes imposed, and the company has offered to sell to Mr. Meeks 100 feet of land from his property into the property that they have under contract, and to provide money to pay for landscaping from Mr. Meeks on that property, as well as anything Silicon Ranch would be required to do on the remaining property of this.
Mr. Petty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question. Normally, what we have seen in some other solar farms, they have a land or mound of land, kind of it's a berm to knock out the bad view and the glare or whatever it might be. So, is there any plans to do that on any of this?
I have never heard of a berm, and that may just be me, but I've never heard of a requirement.
Any type of a buffer at all?
Typically fencing, and sometimes landscape screening in the form of bushes or trees.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes. If I understood you to say that you didn't know of a buffer or people could see anything you do on your property, I kindly disagree. There are many areas in this county where this commission has required that physical buffers, fencing, forestry, to keep from changing the identity of a community. So that is common practice. Secondly, I'd like to move that we will table this in light of the concerns as well as the question. It might not have been the intent of the company. Misinformation or not enough information to the people who have the most at stake as taxpayers. I so move that we will table this.
Before you take any more comment on the motion to table, sorry, because this is a public hearing, you need to hear from both sides before you take any action for or against. So just as a matter of procedure, you need to let the public hearing part finish, and then if you want to make any motions, I would do it at that time.
Mr. Meeks, would you like to call?
Yeah, I would just like to...
Come on up here so we can hear you.
I would just like to ask, Mr. Bowles said that 50 notices were sent out by Silicon. How many notices were sent out by the planning department? How many postcards were sent out?
I don't have the exact number, but I can get that.
Do you have an idea? Was it 50?
I can count them for you.
Okay. I would like to also say that Mr. Bowles says that we had an agreement. We have never had an agreement. They continued, Mr. Bowles and Connor Goodson with Silicon Ranch continued to pressure me to sign a non-interference agreement so I would not go out in the community, so I would not come to this meeting and oppose there. They have not offered that to our neighbors. Mr. Spearman went to our neighbors. I did not go to our neighbors. Let me make that known. Mr. Spearman went to our neighbors. They have not tried to negotiate with them. Me, I'm going to be 300 feet from the panels, not from the property, but from my panels to my house. My neighbors, many of who are here, are going to be much closer than me. They have not tried to work this out with the citizens. They have not made the information known to this committee, in my opinion, or the neighbors, or the county. We've not talked about a lot of things that need to be talked about. I have went to Mr. Pilot. Mr. Pilot's been very kind. He's always sat down with me for 30 minutes to talk to me. He said, Bryce, you need to come to this meeting if you have a concern. That's why I'm here. I'm here to talk about the concerns I have. I do have legal representation of Mr. Soroki, and I'm going to ask that he get a chance to speak in just a moment. But, you know, we're not against solar. But when you do the research and you find that your property value within 3 miles goes down 7% within a half a mile, there's research out there. Mr. Bowles will disagree with that. Nobody wants to live next to a solar farm, a chain link fence, and look at solar panels. There's studies. He's got information that he's going to provide by the Solar Energy Institute that said that's not true. I've researched it. This information was done on a 120-acre farm called the Grundy Farm in North Carolina. These panels were fixed panels. The panels in our neighborhood are moving panels. The glare will be in play. So there's a lot of research that needs to be done. I ask that this committee consider that, consider the constituents. We haven't had an opportunity to really sit down and understand what's going on. It's been very secretive. It's been very quiet. They're trying to push this through. I do agree they've talked to me, but we haven't been able to come to a solid agreement. I don't think it's fair that this gets voted on, pushed down our throats. I've hired an attorney to try to protect me, the citizens, and that's why I'm here.
Would you like your attorney to speak? No?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Spearman, members of the commission, thank you. My name is Todd Soroki, represent Bryce and Hope Meeks. They're also represented by Hank Shackelford and could not be here today. The reason we're here is we would like to request that the commission table the petition for the zoning variance. I believe Mr. Bowles indicated in his opening statement that Silicon Ranch would be in favor of tabling this for further discussion. I think you've heard from the stakeholders in the community, and I just want to give you a few facts, and I know my time is limited. We could talk for for hours about different studies and different facts and different zoning regulations and different restrictions, but I only have a few minutes to talk. So there are three main components that when a solar farm comes into a community, and this is not just any solar farm. This is a 942-acre site. It's the largest solar farm in the state of Tennessee. 70 megawatts. It's massive. It's not just a solar farm. It's the biggest one in the entire state of Tennessee. Now that could be potentially a great thing for Madison County. It could be a feather in the cap of the local community. Could increase the tax base a little bit. May not create a lot of jobs over the long term outside of construction. So there are certainly some benefits. You heard from my client. My client's not here to suggest that there should be no solar in Madison County. There is solar in Madison County already. There's 6 solar sites. But these solar sites, the distance between the actual panels and the residences there, 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet, 1,800 feet. There's a lot of space. There's natural buffers. This is a different situation. This is a massive solar farm. To put this in perspective, this is 140 acres larger than the entire footprint of the McCullough-Sykes Airport. It's huge. This is huge. There's going to be 500 acres of mirrors, not fixed panel mirrors and solar panels that'll rotate in these folks' backyards. You're talking about 230 feet, not from the property line, from an existing residence that people have spent their life savings to pay off. 457 feet, 216 feet, 377 feet, 299 feet, 300 feet. You're literally putting 500 acres of mirrors in people's backyards. So the way other communities in Tennessee have addressed this, big communities and small communities, including Haywood County, Dyer County, Tipton County, they've addressed it through zoning ordinances and zoning regulations that specifically apply to these types of solar farms. And it's to address three main factors: the health and safety of the residents, the public and or private nuisance that can occur, the glare, the noise, the unsightliness, the blight that can occur from a solar farm, and property values. And there's sort of 7 main subsets of that. All of these communities have enacted zoning regulations, which Madison County does not currently have. They include a setback for panel installation, the amount of feet, the footage you have to move these panels off of the property line of an industrial zone piece of property in order to install them. They address fencing, the height of the fencing, the type of the fencing. They address buffering, whether it's a berm, as was suggested by one of the commissioners, whether it's a vegetative buffering, whether it's some type of natural buffering. They address the nuisance factor. There's glare and there's noise issues associated with these solar installations. And then the last three issues have to do with decommissioning these solar farms. That's something you've not heard about from Mr. Bowles or from Silicon Ranch or from any of the stakeholders. So solar panels have about a useful life of between 20 and 25 years. And just to tell you, the way solar panels are manufactured, they're hazardous substances that are considered hazardous substances that are used to manufacture these solar panels, such that when they've exceeded their useful life and they can no longer be used, they can't just be put in a dump or a landfill. They're considered a hazardous substance. They have to be recycled. There's certain things that have to take place in order to do that. And again, that's the point when a solar farm is no longer generating income and revenue because these panels don't work anymore. It's sort of referred to as it can cause a solar blight issue. So there's a very large expense associated with decommissioning 20 years down the road a 942-acre solar farm consisting of 212,000 solar panels, 212,000. So the average in 2016, there was a study done. The average cost of decommissioning, this is a 70-megawatt site, the average cost of decommissioning a solar plant per megawatt was $57,000. That's a $4 million cost to decommission the size of this massive solar farm. So what these other communities have done, and I'll tell you, it's Southwest Tennessee Development District that actually helped, which also served Madison County, actually helped Haywood County and some of the other surrounding counties in coming up with their zoning restrictions and their zoning ordinances. But one of the major issues is addressing decommissioning of these sites on the front end. So a lot of these regulations and restrictions require a decommissioning proposal to be submitted by the owner-operator of the site on the front end. They require a decommission performance bond. In other words, 20 years down the road, when this thing's not generating any revenue anymore, and you have a $4 million expense to take these hazardous 212,000 panels that are considered hazardous substances, when you have to decommission these things, who's going to pay for it? So they address a decommission performance bond and also a decommission completion timeframe. So these are sort of the main issues that all of these zoning regulations and restrictions address. In Madison County currently, there is virtually no zoning restrictions that address a specific solar farm installation. Again, you've got six existing solar sites here on a much, much smaller scale. They're located in areas with distances between residentially zoned structures and property, sufficient distance and buffers. This is not really an issue here. It doesn't present the same issues that this particular solar farm presents. So just for instance, Haywood County requires an 8-foot continuous screening of either vegetation or board-on-board privacy fence, a 500-foot setback from residential property. And again, this is the West Tennessee Development District that worked in conjunction with Haywood County to develop these restrictions. A buffer requirement, a minimum size of 100 acres, noise restrictions for nearby residential uses, restrictions on glare that would constitute a nuisance to neighboring residents. It requires all the electrical and interconnection distribution lines to be installed underground. And it requires decommissioning if a site remains inactive for a 1-year period, and it requires within 18 months notice. It requires the submission by the owner-operator of a decommissioning plan, requires a bond for decommissioning into hazardous solar panels when they're no longer useful in 20 to 25 years. Again, that's Haywood County. So if you compare that to Madison County and the current restrictions in place, this is going to be zoned I-2. There's a 50-foot setback in I-2, 50 feet. That's it. No fencing, no buffering, nothing about glare, nothing about noise, nothing about the $4 million, well, 20 or 25 years. I don't know what the expense of decommissioning 212,000 solar panels comprising 500 acres is going to cost. 2016, it cost about $4 million. Nothing addressing those issues. Dyer County, 500-foot setback from residentially zoned property, 8.5-foot perimeter fence, adequate screening to buffer solar use, 40-acre minimum size, no increased noise to cause nuisance, glare restrictions to prevent nuisance, requires the installation of underground distribution and interconnection lines, and it requires the owner-operator decommission if it's out of use for a year or more. Tipton County, setback requirement, requires recommissioning within 90 days of abandonment. There's a per acre performance bond. They do theirs a little bit differently. They set a performance bond based on the size, and that performance bond is to bond the company to actually decommission this in 20 or 25 years when these panels are no longer useful. So as Mr. Bowles suggested at the outset and suggested by some of the commission members, we request that the commission table this matter to study this, perhaps engage the Southwest Tennessee Development District to assist it in coming up with some restrictions. We're not here to tell you that Silicon Ranch is a bad corporate actor. I'm not here to say that. What I am here to say is Silicon Ranch might sell this development as soon as it gets a zoning variance a month later to someone who's not a good actor. All you have is a 50-foot setback right here. That's it. And nothing that addresses any of these issues. I could talk for hours and hours about studies, about different fire hazards, about different hazardous substances releases, different issues that the stakeholders need to talk about. I know my time is limited. If anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Any questions for him?
Should Madison County have some type of restrictions or what have you that you say they don't have?
Absolutely. I think Mr. Meeks and myself we're not against solar or solar farms. What we are for is the responsible development of these solar farms, particularly when they're going to abut a historically residential and agricultural area. You're shifting the identity of the use of this land. And again, you're putting 212,000 panels over 500 acres directly in people's backyards. They've worked their entire lives to pay off their house. They built their homes there. They want to retire there. They have families there. You're moving in this industrial zone 1.2 miles away from the closest current industrial zone.
Any commissioners have a question? Comment?
Why 1,000 acres? I never have understood that.
That's a requirement of the company that wants to buy the power and the amount of power that's required.
Commissioner Brown, I'm ready for your.
You got another. I move that we will table this. I move we will table this issue until next month for an opportunity for the consideration of the safety and the concerns of a buffer to maintain the identity of the existing community and taxpayers in that area. I move we will table it next month. Maybe they can work it out between themselves.
Commissioner Ellis.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Dean. I'd just like to say one thing. We had a motion to table. I'm all for a table. But once we table this, will the company meet with all these people, talk to them and see if they can come up with some kind of agreement? If they cannot come up with some kind of agreement, once it come back here on the table, if like it is today, I want this body to support us and say no. If they say yes, I want to say yes. Once they meet with our constituents.
Sir, have you got one more comment? Yes.
Yes, sir. You sat down under and fluctuated. I want you to pull all this up there represented that. I also talk about that. I don't agree with them. I'm not going to sell my property. They buying this property. I'm not going to sell it. That's what I have to think.
We have a motion on table. Do we have a second?
I second.
You second.
But did you understand what I said?
We got a motion to table, folks, so we can go on all day long. I've got a motion on table to table. I got a second. I heard what you said.
Okay.
All in favor say aye.
Sir. Just
discussion.
Just to be clear on the motion, we're tabling for 1 month to take it up next month.
Next month, yeah, right.
Okay. And just one last question. For consideration of changing zoning ordinance, what body takes that up? That's obviously managed by the zoning board. Are there other opportunities for some shifting some boundary lines in that category?
Let me just clarify something.
Yeah.
And I'll make it very quick. We operate as your planning staff. We can make any adjustments to the zoning resolution that you as a body feel are necessary. But let me also clarify that what was said about no restrictions is not true. Madison County has chosen to employ a two-step process. This is the first step. They have to get the zoning, because without the zoning, there is no opportunity for a special exception, which is what electric producing facilities fall into. All right. If they get past this board with the zoning, then it goes to the Madison County Board of Zoning Appeals. And they're the body that actually reviews the site plan, the operating procedures, the buffering, all the things that are associated with the site as well as the use. They're the body that's charged with doing that. So to say there's no requirements or no restrictions is not true. The 50-foot is a building setback. That's not a buffer zone requirement. That's a building setback. And so the Board of Zoning Appeals can attach whatever restrictions and whatever operational standards they want to apply to the site plan at that point. And that's the process that this Madison County body, you as a body, have adopted. Now, if you want to adopt another process, another way of treating solar farms, we'll be happy to bring that to you, and if you choose to adopt that, then you can adopt it. But right now, you have adopted a two-step process, so there is a restriction. You can't go out there and just put a solar farm down anywhere. You got to go through the 2 steps. If you fail at any of those steps, you don't go forward.
That's what I was hoping you would address. Thank you.
All right.
Can you repeat the second step?
It's the Madison County Board of Zoning Appeals. The electric producing facilities are not a permitted use outright. In other words, if you get the zoning today, if you get it a month from today, once that zoning is in place, that doesn't mean they can start. That only means they have an opportunity to go to the next step. Then the next step is when they go to the Madison County Board of Zoning Appeals. They'll actually review the site plan, the buffering, all the things you talked about, the glare. That's part of the review, a glare analysis to see what are these panels going to do. Are they going to shine in somebody's eyes? Are they going to be shining where it's not appropriate? All those things are dealt with at the Board of Zoning Appeals.
This could go on forever.
When was that enacted, that ASAP
I've
process?
already closed discussion. We got a motion on the table. Got a motion on the floor to table. I added have a second. Commissioner Nelson. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. This will be on next month's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I thought the people were gonna get a chance to speak. We can say that all the time.
Y'all didn't give us time.
Yeah, we could just give the people a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we can't get
The
a few
commission
more
rules
minutes in
provide
time.
for a public hearing, provides an opportunity for 5 minutes per side. And so the chairman has exceeded the allotment for both sides. So that's just what the commission rules state. So, thank you.
Item number 12. Insurance meeting, okay, go ahead, Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 12, we'd like to table this till next month. We've got some vacancies that we need to discuss. So I'd like to table that, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion table. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Item number 13, appointment of one member to the Excess Resale Property Committee. By this body, 1-year term. We have one vacancy. Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to nominate Commissioner Hale to fill the vacant seat on the Excess Resale Property Committee.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Item number 14, appointment of 4 members to the Agricultural Extension Committee by this body, 2-year term. You have Terry Spearman, Hurley Newbern, Barbara Johnson, and Arthur Johnson has asked not to be reappointed. Commissioner Stevens.
Mr. Chairman, we need to table that also until we come up with an appointment for.
Unless you want to appoint somebody today. You want to appoint?
I'm sorry.
Can we, Miss Newbern, I don't know that she is willing to serve again.
Okay, maybe we need, well, I guess we do need to table it then.
Motion to table.
Have a motion second to table.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Sarah, you got all these? You got these, okay. Item 15, appoint 5 members to the Budget Committee by this body, a 1-year term. Doug Stevenson, Jason Compton, Mike Taylor, and Duval White, and Warner Turner. Commissioner Stevenson.
We're still in the process of appointing one more person, so we'd like to table this till next month.
Have a motion to table. Have a second. All in favor say aye. Okay.
One other person
Go ahead,
on the
Commissioner.
Budget Committee, I think that we can go and make that appointment right now, just because people didn't appoint somebody else to the budget. And I'll make a motion that we put Mr. Ellison on that committee, on that budget committee.
Do we not just take the vote? That's what I was going to say. I understood that you took the vote. I said you can't reconsider it, but if we take someone on the prevailing side to bring it back, motion to reconsider if the vote's already taken.
That's been tabled to next month.
We voted on the table.
Beg pardon?
They said table, nobody voted on it.
You take a voice vote. I understood that there was a
Voice vote, yeah.
Sometimes things go a little fast around here.
It wasn't no voice vote, 'cause I got a.
We had a motion and a second to table. In the middle of the voice vote is when you stood up. I recognize you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 1 no. Item number 16, appointment 1 member to the liaison to the Industrial Development Board by this body, 1-year term, Joey Hale, incumbent.
I would ask to not be considered.
Do we have any volunteers? We'll table that to next month. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Item number 17, appointment of 8 members to the Information Technology Committee, 1-year term, to consider of 3 non-commissioners, Tony White, Deputy Mayor, Bart Walls, Highway Superintendent, Rusty Perry, TVDN, and 5 commissioners with Scott Brown, Jason Compton, James Pearson, Doug Stevenson, and Mike Taylor, incumbent. Tony White is no longer with us, and James Pearson is no longer with us. What would you like to do?
Move to table next month. Move to table next month.
Have a motion to table next month? Have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Item number 18, appointment of 7 members to the Nonprofit Agency Committee by this body, 1-year term. Jimmy Arnold, Katie Brantley, Jim Ed Hart, Arthur Johnson, Barbara Johnson, Larry Lawrence, and Mike Taylor. You have 2 on there no longer commissioners.
Just a point of order, that none of those names are correct. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's from previous years, but it's been completely reorganized.
Yeah, that's been reorganized.
Let's just move, I move to take 18 and 19 up next month as well.
Second.
Have a motion second to take 18, 19 to next month? Who seconded it? Perry? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Item number 20, election of notary public.
So moved.
Have a motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Item 21, any and all matters related to connected was set forth in the items 1 through 20. Commissioner, Sheriff.
I went out a while ago, talked to Captain Gunner. We should have a meeting set up for the next, hopefully a couple of weeks, working on that question we had about the residential jail. And see what money they're going to be paying for already, is already got in the contract. It will come up and we're going to come in
So you said you have an answer in a couple of weeks?
We're going to meet in a couple
of weeks. Okay, I got you.
Try to get clarified what the contract is.
That'd be fine.
We have right now, how much it pays for, because they have $1 million. We just have to work through it.
That'd be fine.
I'll try to get it narrowed down for you so that.
Appreciate it.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Roll call.
Alexander.